Good afternoon. This is Tech Talk. It may be mid-August, but that doesn't mean we don't have news to share with you today. We're going to look at mobile device security, some of the hot things that are going on right now in the news, and whatever our callers decide that we should cover today. So please come back. Good afternoon. Here it is, Tech Talk from the University of Rio Grande's studio in Woodhall, IDMS, and we have our full panel here today. Next month, I think we have to do a remote with Dwayne because he's going to be going back and forth to the airport picking up some new staff. Hopefully, he just won't be doing it from behind the wheel because.
Hopefully not. Hopefully I'll pull over or I'll be there already waiting.
So we're going to use technology to do a remote session, something that these guys have done before for the OSU Center with their guests. But,
many times.
So we put out a promo and Pat goes and teases us for things that are in the news, and one of the things that I saw on there was Space Force. I think that was published. Space Force.
Yep.
And I tried to think about how we were going to, welcome that. How are we going to, bring that in? And we don't have a slide for it, but in the news I saw a picture of a satellite that had a laser on it. And this may take us back to when Ronald Reagan, when he was president, wanted us to have a system of meshed satellites so that we could protect ourselves.
Star Wars.
Star Wars. Not the movie, but
no, that's what it was called.
It was called Star Wars. And we've sort of come around back to this idea that we have a lot of very critical assets that are in the sky.
GPS.
GPS, broadcasting, our communications, and whether or not we're looking at solar flares, or anything else that could knock us out. The whole idea that perhaps we need to protect our stratosphere and that envelope rather than terrestrial to protect our nation's best interest, I think it's scary, but it is kind of one of those interesting topics.
It's a different threat. It's sort of like the sign of the times. Like back at the last turn of the century, you had airplanes, and they were like, "How are we going to use airplanes in war?" And then at first they were just like, let's fly them over and see what they're doing. Like, hey, we could also drop some stuff.
Drop things on them.
And so we've only gotten a little bit higher from there.
Rotten tomatoes from the sky.
But it is. It's very, very interesting, and like you said, very scary to think about that something up there is watching us. And
I see a lot of people making fun of Space Force, but it's. There are threats that people don't think about. Or I'm not sure how a weapon that would disrupt our electrical grid.
Well, that would be probably the next thing I would worry about is our electrical grid.
Because that's a really good thing to do. Because you don't have to destroy anything. If you wanted to take over a country, just stop their communication and their electric and everything, and they're paralyzed pretty much. You've made them all Amish.
In today's world, In today's world, If you can stop communication somehow with these little phones, people will go bananas.
Right. So it'll stop everything, and then you can move right in. You don't have to rebuild anything.
Let's hold that thought. And we're going to weave it in a little bit later.
We can do that,
because I think we have a slide that we'll ask Pat for later. Later. So don't cue it up yet, sir. As always, I kind of go out in the news and I grab things from the technology columns because when you use our devices and you start looking up news, you're going to come up with popular U.S. and all the rest of these. And they have a tab for sports and entertainment, and then
technology.
We go to technology. And a lot of them are about games and cars and stuff like that. But I've always kind of focused on security and focused on just the newest chips and things.
Vulnerabilities.
Pat, can you pull up the Ryzen slide? They have a new chip out from the company called AMD. And one of the things that we see is that Moore's law states that there's going to be a more powerful chip, and it's going to be cheaper, and it's going to be that way. But they always try to see just how far they can push the technology. So this is a chip called Ryzen, and they overclocked it, meaning that they cranked up the settings so that it had all 32 of the cores hyper-threaded. And
whenever you look at a computer, if somebody doesn't know what overclocking is, whenever you look at a computer, you say that the chip, the processor is like a 12-core and 3 gigahertz. So the gigahertz part of it is the clock speed.
Sure.
And they used to use like a quartz to do that. But you just turn that speed up and try to run it faster.
And so, the second
heat.
slide of that shows the effect of using liquid nitrogen to cool down this chip because it produces so much heat.
Right.
So much heat. Now, that is kind of cool in itself, but can you imagine a data center that had all of these big chips running at normal or hyper-threaded speed?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You'd be in an ice box.
Well, you'd have to.
You'd have to have an igloo around you.
Microsoft launched a data center that is in a submersible pod that is underwater. And I don't know if that's going to warm the reefs or anything like that, but
Is that gonna help with global warming?
I don't think it's going to help. You know the laws of physics. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. It's just going to be moved off somewhere else.
Move somewhere else.
But AMD came out with their line called the Ryzen, and Intel has a brand new line of chips that they're going to come out in October, and you'll see some of the manufacturers debuting those probably for Christmas sales. So wait till the November show because we talk about Christmas gifts.
Who uses AMD?
Anybody.
A variety,
I mean, it's a variety. When you look at a
It's not a
HP
particular
or a
type of
Dell or a
computer.
Lenovo, you can have your pick of different
You
ones.
can pick different machines that'll have a
But that Ryzen chip
models.
is made for gaming. It's made for a specific board and for high end. And NVIDIA is one of the leading companies that does the graphic processing units, the GPUs. And so they're up there, and they're also used for data mining for Bitcoins.
Yeah. You're right.
But Intel's got a load of problems. They're coming out with the brand new chips, yet they'll be in October. But this week it was announced that another speculative execution error, kind of like our Meltdown and Spectre that we talked about last year, and those are going to be out there, and if it hits a data center, you're done.
Yeah.
So VMware, which handles a lot of virtual machines.
A lot.
So you take a server that has chips in it, and you tell that it can run several different copies of different operating systems simultaneously.
On one big machine.
On one big machine.
Yeah.
But if you can get to the hardware layer and start messing with it and get data out of it, it tosses the industry upside down.
Yeah, right, because you're getting to the core of all of those machines.
Yeah.
So you could destroy 10 machines like that.
Are they looking to destroy or get
well,
the information?
Get the data. I
Because
guess theoretically you could destroy it. You could figure out how to tell it to overclock it and smoke it, I guess.
Yeah.
Couldn't you?
I was thinking it's sort of like all the connections within the chip. If you break into one of those, it'd be sort of like what you would do back in the old days where you hook a receiver onto the telephone lines, you can listen to whoever's conversation. So you'd get that information just by a different way of getting to it.
I will go with Mike's analogy.
Okay.
It's a stretch,
like that.
but
We're kind of simplified.
In a nutshell, people are looking for data. They're looking for information.
Speculative execution in a chip, and don't want to get too nerdy here, but these chips are, like we said, many cores, the ability to do a lot of things, and they're just waiting around for the next instruction. look up this, add that. And so what they're able to do is sort of assume what the next operation would be. So they're going to load from memory what they think they're going to do next.
Yeah.
Well, what's happened is the people that have gone out and tried to mess up the system is they're going to like, well, I can go over to the memory and read what's over there, and I might be able to harvest some information. And you don't want to be able to have at the processor level your chip messed with.
Right.
So it's not something they're doing, it's something that they might do next, and so they're able to go out and read the memory ahead of time.
Yep.
It's scary, but
alter the next steps.
I'm glad I am not a chip engineer or a chip
Me too.
designer. That's something I never did, write that level of code.
What about this Russia laser thing?
Well, I think. Well, that's the Space Force.
That's the next. Yeah, I like that Russian cannon. Yeah, I like that.
Well, the thought is that if a satellite could go up and it could be loaded with a optical laser, and it could go pew 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 pew,
and
taking out the defenses and communication satellites.
That's where Space Force comes into play.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now the odd thing is, here we are, a globe of nations.
Yeah.
And we're sharing the science.
You're assuming that the Earth is round too.
Yes. We're a flat sheet of many different countries.
Yeah.
And yet we have this space lab up here.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're exchanging shuttle trips and transports.
Yeah.
Yet we're over on the other side worrying about having a space force.
Space Force.
Like that. So.
And we're also going to the sun now too.
I can't remember
So
the
who
movie.
knows what that'll come up?
The good thing is, we're not worried about burning up because we're going at night.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
It's always safer. It's always safer to go at night.
So I see somebody else is being reportedly hacked. So obviously Facebook's already gone. They've been hacked. So is all of these social media things going to be just knocked down?
Well,
now we're talking about Instagram now.
And I believe this is Instagram in India.
In India.
In India.
Okay.
India claims that a lot of those accounts had been hacked,
Yep.
that they had a lot of people going in there and getting their information exposed.
Okay.
But if you look at the list of how many places have been hacked, and we'll ask for Pat to do that later, there's one after the other of these
Right.
intrusions.
Yeah.
But it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's just, what are you going to do to protect yourself and your data? And a little bit later, we're going to look at how to work on our own personal mobile devices. But,
Well, what's this? Facebook buys Vidpresso?
yeah, like Espresso, but
Okay, Vidpresso.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
No, I've
Is that
not
like a
heard of
YouTube
Vid.
type of
Yeah.
thing?
yes, I mean
So-
Facebook Live,
Yep.
right? But this is with audience response built into it.
Oh, really?
So if you're
Nice.
being able to say a question on that, and people that are watching it are able to respond, then on the screen you could have that response.
Sort of like they do the presidential debates or
So-
during the State of the Union, you can see the curve going up and down as people agree and disagree.
Sure. Sure.
But you're talking more than just chatting back. Are you talking we can actually hear somebody?
The article that I read was like more the business side of it, but the picture that it had has sort of a yes or no at the bottom, and people were voting on something.
Oh, okay. So interactive that way.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Interaction,
All right.
which I think would be cool.
And then the back end would just like gather all the information and present it in
Yeah.
some graphical form, probably.
So
Okay.
what we're
So,
going to
so okay, there's
what we're
other
going to
stuff
do
out there now.
is we're going to have 3 bars
Yeah.
over each of us,
Yep.
and our audience will rate whether or not we're entertaining or not,
Yeah.
or
Which you-
informative.
Yeah.
Wah, wah.
I don't think so.
Yes. No. Maybe. Yeah.
So, Mike, I'm tossing this next one at you. What can you tell us about the problems that Apple's had with their keyboards?
Oh,
Have you followed that at all?
no. I'm not into
Faulty
MacBooks.
keyboard.
MacBooks.
I like the towers, and I'm waiting for the next Mac Pro to come out.
Okay.
The thing about the MacBook, and I'm going to try to be as agnostic as I can.
Sure.
They're really highly engineered. They're beautiful.
They are.
You know, with one finger you can lift the lid of an air. Nobody else can do that. They'll fight back and forth with the processors and everything else. The Mac keyboard has, it's recessed in the you know, what we call it, the palm rest.
Yep.
And what's happened is that any crumbs or debris gets around that edge of the key, and the keys get stuck.
Really?
And if you look at, you know, I'll just pick on, you know, the ABC laptop maker. You look at theirs, and you look at that keyboard, and they got crumbs and food and everything else down in there.
And they work fine.
But they're working.
Yeah.
So, you know, Apple got a little bit embarrassed on their 2018 model because the MacBook Pro, which is a high-end machine, is having issues, and now they have to go back to China to have more keyboards shipped back and replaced.
Is that because the tolerances are too tight?
Probably.
Has to be.
Or the mechanism that's underneath the key. When you push down, it has to make a contact with something. And what they tried to do was to put a little plastic cone underneath there that protected it, and you know, you're still pushing it down.
Yeah.
Right.
But I don't know. It's just.
So is there an official recall on them? Not yet. Right?
I don't know.
Okay. I didn't know if you read it, it was an official recall.
A lot of the times
or
when
what?
I've had problems with Macs, they kind of wait for you to have a problem. You take it back to the store, they replace it for nothing. See you later. Have a nice day.
Okay.
Is there an official recall process for computers, or do you just have to wait? And find out.
I think you just, unless it's something known, but like batteries. You know, they've had official recalls on certain batteries.
Your battery's
on
going to
laptops.
catch on fire.
Yeah, I've had those happen before.
All right.
Not catch on fire, but I had a recall that said I had to send my battery in to get replaced.
I've got notifications of class action lawsuits, you know, that you're supposed to fill it out and wait 20 years to.
Yeah, I've had something like that. But batteries is the only one I've ever had that said
I've had
a
some
replacement completely.
power supply problems with like 2 or 3 Macs on campus within the past 20 years. And I took it to the Mac store, and they replaced it.
Yeah.
They said, yeah, it's a known problem. We'll take care of it for free.
So
And
maybe that's the case.
The way they worked it.
Nice.
So the last one that's on our sheet right here. FCC Chairman
Okay.
Ajit Pai.
Yep.
The headline says that they're getting grilled by lawmakers because they lied about a denial of service attack that we reported on here last year.
Right.
Denial of service attacks are where everybody is going to a particular site and they have bots that do it automatically, and they tell your nanny cam or your home doorbell camera to like go out there and send false information, create traffic.
Just create traffic.
And so the FCC's website went down and it crashed. Well, that was pretty bad.
Yeah.
What they find out now is that it crashed at a time when they were discussing the repeal of the net neutrality law.
Oh.
You know what happened on that Sunday night before that happened? HBO comedian John Oliver had a show where he talked about how crazy this net neutrality thing is, and he urged everybody to get on their computer and go to the FCC website and post a comment about it. And really, what was either happening is the comments took it down, or maybe the FCC took it down because they didn't want to register the comments.
Maybe that was
we
the
don't
case.
want to hear
We
it.
don't know that.
Yeah,
That's
It's
very
happened
possible.
both ways.
our government wouldn't do that.
No.
Never.
Never.
You trust the government.
No. They want to listen. They want to hear everything we have to say.
Okay,
They
let's segue to the cybersecurity slide.
Let's
Pat.
go.
This
Cybersecurity.
This is where we're going to roll with this one. So one of the things we've talked about is denial of service and hacking and losing your accounts and everything. It's a big open space, but really, who do we look for to take care of us? Like, who really is in command of this?
According to that, a bunch of people.
Okay, but it's actually worse than this.
Yeah.
It's a lot of agencies, and there's a group that are military focused, Homeland Security focused.
Yep.
There's parts of the Department of Justice, the FBI. We have the National Security Agency. We have the CIA. We have the blah, 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 blah.
You know, we'll have to make room for one more, the Space Force one.
Yes,
Yeah,
we will.
We will have to add another one because that's going to be cyber.
We'll send this back to the graphics department
send that back to the government and say we need to add one more.
But really, you know, when you're looking at the things that are happening, those types of threats that are part of cybersecurity, you know, we used to, you know, go and try to copy a game off of somebody's computer, and then you'd end up with a virus, and you know, it would play Yankee Doodle Dandy, you know, be annoying. But you know, we actually have a lot of things, and they're very, very current. But really, you know, what are those industries, and technically, what are they? They're attacking the computer's operation. We call it a malware worm, but it's going after an exploit of something that's happening in the system that it knows is broken. And people can buy these exploits. They can say, I want to screw with somebody. What do you know that's broken with Adobe? And then they'll go out and they'll buy it, and they'll do a phishing scam, and they'll say, click on this, and then what happens is it downloads the malware to your computer and gets into it. Turns your computer into a botnet that goes out and takes down the FCC website or something. But what are the industries that are really affected? And we talked about taking the energy industry down. Well, petroleum and the utilities are way up there, and wastewater, transportation, the chemical, you know, we're looking at a lot of vulnerabilities there. But these are the ones that have been affected already, and we don't hear about it. What we hear about is Tommy's laptop is, you know, slow. And you know, this is a real concern. So
that's interesting that petroleum is up there at the top of the list.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have put that at the top of the list right at the gate, but
so, you know, where do we get
it makes sense.
Yeah, what part of the chain was affected?
Yeah, I guess.
You know, pipelines?
Yeah.
Something like
Pumps
that?
could be lots of things.
I mean,
like that,
you really wouldn't want your refineries to go poof.
No, that would be very bad.
So, you know, if you look at, you know, the places where we can get our information, our Department of Homeland Security has what they call a CERT, and they're for emergency responses, and they send these out. And I got this one earlier this week, so we're going to kind of follow that one a little bit here later on. You know, what are the threats, and what can you do to keep your device safe? There are other ones. You know, higher ed has a group of people that share information. You have to be invited to join because they don't want everybody to know about it. And there's a group of people that train our security professionals, and that's called SANS, and they do an incident report, and we've read from those. The private sector has lots of companies because it is not all government run. There's a lot of companies that, you know, we look to. Symantec was the one that discovered Stuxnet. You know, they like that. But it's really a much larger landscape. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of companies in the security sector and each of this. And you know, don't move closer to your screen. I don't expect you to read this, but you know, that's what it is.
Just a graphical display.
It is a graphical display. Lots of little companies.
So this is the biggest data breaches of the 21st century.
Yeah, and I always go like, you know, what are you afraid of?
Yeah.
Well, you know, were you afraid of your AT&T email account on Yahoo?
I mean, you know, obviously people, the latest one was the Equifax one, right?
Yeah.
And people now probably don't even think about the Yahoo one that was.
Well, that was 2013, right?
Yeah.
I cut off a little bit of the years on the far right.
Adult Friend Finder, is that the Ashley Madison thing?
I think it was part of that.
Yeah.
Of course, my information wasn't in there.
Yeah.
No.
But you know, we had you know, we have Anthem and eBay, Morgan Chase, a bank, getting shamed by that. Home Depot, you know,
Target stores. I remember Target stores got hit.
Yeah.
and Adobe.
Yeah.
And you know, but it goes back even further. But there were so many that were in the news that didn't make this chart. I had to type them in the top.
Yeah.
All of those companies had gotten infected. You know, and
right. These all have been hit in some form.
Yeah. So, you know, what are the incidents that have happened? What's hitting us as home users? We've talked about ransomware. We've talked about the the actual malware infections, WannaCry, Petya, not Petya, Bad Rabbit. But you know what we need to do is just like be honest. Androids, iOSs, laptops, they all can get infected, and they all get their warnings. So what do we have to do? We need to update our machines. We need to go through a device and harden it so that it does not get infected, and we have to look at limiting our exposure to them.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there are certain things that you need to do. You just need to manage what you're sharing online. Don't put a bunch of personal information in your apps. Don't go around and connect to any wireless network. It's like sleeping around. It's dangerous. But where do you get those updates? They're part of your system. In your your mobile device, we pretty well agree that we're going to use the gear to be the graphical representation for systems. So you go into there, you go where your software is, and Android and iOS have two different locations. But there's a software or system update. Most of them will put a notification on your home screen when there's something for you to do.
Yeah, which I just got one, for an Android.
For an Android?
Yeah.
Okay. And you know, you also have to look at your devices and your applications.
You know, that's probably the biggest thing that people don't realize is the applications.
Okay.
Of updating applications.
I download the weather app.
Yeah.
It asks me whether or not it should have access to my. I want to thank Pat for doing those slides so quickly.
Great job.
It wants access to my location.
Yeah.
Yes or no?
No. Well, I mean, you could.
Sure. Weather?
You want to say yes because, you want to know what the weather is.
Sure. I mean, it's coming to where I am.
Yeah, whenever I go to Columbus, it gets the Columbus weather. Or if I go to Tennessee, it gets the Tennessee weather.
Address book?
No.
No.
Why does it need to know my other people?
Okay. Google News. Location? Address book.
Not address book.
What if I want to share a news story with you? And I'm like, share it. This is really good. Dwayne and Mike should see this because we're going to talk about it on the next Tech Talk.
I don't know. I just don't like sharing address books.
Okay.
Because that gives all of those access to every email address that everybody has in my address book.
And if the app isn't a trusted app that's monitored by the App Store, respectively, then there's a chance that malware could be slipped into that and it's distributed. Right. So what you're getting is a really bad and hacked piece of software that you've downloaded and trusted.
Yeah. And and in some cases, it won't run unless you agree to share that stuff with them.
Yeah.
There's some of them that just won't run. So
our role is to, not only tell you about this stuff, but to let you sleep well at night.
Yeah.
It's not going to get any better.
No.
Because everything is, like cameras and all this, it tells you exactly where you took the picture or what time you took the picture and all that stuff.
I don't think that the house that blew up this week in Colorado, was it Denver?
Yeah.
Came as a result of a hack of the petroleum or natural gas system. But it definitely is.
People still do stupid things.
All right. Anyhow, it's August. We'll see you in September.
Yep.
Keep those requests coming in.